Joel Embiid isn't the solution in Philly, he's the problem. Once the process and MVP of the league, Joel Embiid has capped the 76ers ceiling, and now this team isn't even a real playoff or championship threat because of him. Embiid's constant injuries, slow-paced ISO-heavy offense, and postseason drop-offs have killed rhythm, stalled development, and made Philly predictable when it matters most, turning a talented roster into a below-average team with barely even getting out of the first round in their radar. Before we go any further, let's acknowledge the obvious. Joel Embiid is one of the most talented big men ever. He once was an MVP, and he is a dominant regular season force in a nightmare matchup on paper. So how could that be the problem? That's the trap. Because when something fails over and over again, the most obvious answer is usually the hardest one to accept. And here's the question we need to plant early. If Embiid is as dominant as we're told, why does everything collapse when it matters most? We'll answer that, but not yet. Every playoff loss sounds the same. It wasn't Embiid's fault. He didn't have enough help. The roster was flawed. The coach failed him. And to be fair, sometimes those things are true. But here's the problem with repeating excuses. Eventually, patterns matter more than reasons. Because when Jimmy Butler leaves after less than a season, Ben Simmons implodes and doesn't play basketball anymore, James Harden exits after less than 2 years with the team, and then coaches keep getting fired no matter the regular season record, and the only constant is Joel Embiid, you have to ask, why does everyone else get blamed, but never him? Hold on to that thought for later. Joel Embiid didn't grow up as a polished basketball product. He started late, he learned fast, and he relied on his talent, size, and skill. That worked early, but it also shaped the way he plays the game. Embiid was never forced to master quick decision-making, something like Jokic has, off-ball movement, something Wembanyama has, or pace control, or consistent conditioning, because for most of his career, he didn't need to. And here's the key idea. The habits that make you great in the regular season can sabotage you in the playoffs. And Joel Embiid never truly changed his habits. This is where things start getting uncomfortable. Joel Embiid's game is slow, methodical, centered on isolation, dependent on free throws, and he's built around his physical dominance. That's not inherently bad, but in the playoffs, whistles disappear, since the league doesn't want to see 50 free throws a game. Teams game plan relentlessly, as they are playing the same team for up to 2 weeks. The pace increases, as everyone has the same goal, make it to the next round. And most importantly, possessions matter. Teams can't afford to have costly turnovers and multiple scoreless possessions. And suddenly, Embiid's greatest strengths become limitations. Here's the question viewers start asking. Why does Philly's offense feel stuck every postseason? Because everything bends around Embiid, and nothing flows through him. One of the biggest factors that comes with Embiid, his conditioning. This part gets ignored, excused, or downplayed every single year, but it keeps showing up. Late games, fourth quarters, game 6s and 7s. Joel Embiid is visibly exhausted, and that exhaustion affects everything. Defensive rotations slow down, his offensive decisions get rushed, the body language shifts, and the leadership fades. Now ask yourself this, how can a team close playoff series when its best player is running on fumes? This isn't about effort. It's about playstyle sustainability. Another big thing that often gets overlooked is Embiid's leadership style. Leadership isn't yelling, it isn't interviews, and it isn't tweets. Leadership is what teammates feel in pressure moments. And year after year, the same thing happens in Philadelphia. When adversity hits, Embiid gets frustrated, and you'll see him whining for fouls constantly. His body language changes. He looks like a shell of himself come April and May. And of course, the accountability shifts outward. If you watch closely during playoff losses, you'll see his shrugs, the hands on the knees, and a visible annoyance. And that leads to a dangerous locker room reality. When your leader looks defeated, the team follows. This matters more than points or rebounds. Something changed after Ben Simmons left Philly, and what followed was even worse than having him there. Ben Simmons didn't just fail in Philadelphia, he collapsed. And yes, Ben does deserve blame. But here's the part nobody connects. The Embiid-centric system required Ben Simmons to stand off the ball, avoid clogging space, and become something he wasn't. Instead of adapting Embiid's role to maximize everyone, the Sixers bent everyone else around Embiid. And when Simmons broke, Embiid stayed untouched by criticism. but the system stayed the same. You can't have a drive and kick heavy guard like Ben Simmons and then have a paint hungry center like Embiid on the same team running the offense. It just simply won't work. Their time together as a duo seemed perfectly fine during the regular season, but come playoffs time, every team they went against knew their offense and it was beatable. Another key pickup during this time was Jimmy Butler, but like most superstars that have came to the 76ers, something wasn't right. Jimmy Butler didn't leave Philadelphia for money. He left because he didn't believe. The playoff run with Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, and Joel Embiid, that was supposed to be a championship caliber lineup, as they were one of the best trios in the league at the time. However, watch that playoff run again, and you'll be able to answer these questions. Who closed games? Who demanded the ball? And who embraced chaos? It wasn't Embiid. Butler saw something early. This team doesn't have a true playoff alpha. And that realization matters because Butler thrives in systems where leaders rise under pressure. Philadelphia didn't have that. After this potential big three came and left, there was another superstar coming to town, James Harden. When James Harden arrived, the narrative changed. Now Embiid finally has help. Now the offense will flow. Now the burden is shared. But what actually happened? Late games still slowed to a crawl. Offense still became predictable, and everything still revolved around Embiid's touches. And Harden, like Butler before him, eventually disengaged. Different star, the same exact ending. That's not coincidence. Now, if you want to push the blame on somebody other than the players, maybe let's look at the head coaches. Maybe that was the problem after all. But nope, it wasn't. Look at the list. Different philosophies, different personalities, and different systems. But they're all still the same playoff exits. At some point, coaches aren't the common denominator. The system is. And the system is built around one idea. Joel Embiid must be the centerpiece at all costs, even when the evidence says that approach doesn't work in April and May. Since we're already talking about the playoffs, let's take a look at Embiid's stats during the fun months of the association. Here's where things get real. Joel Embiid's efficiency drops in the playoffs. His turnovers rise, his impact narrows. His most recent season that Embiid and the Sixers made the playoffs was during the 2023-2024 season, 1 year removed from him winning his first MVP trophy. During the regular season, he looked amazing, averaging 35, 11, and 6 while shooting 53% from the field, while also only playing 34 minutes a game. Once he reached the playoffs, these numbers shifted. Although he still averaged 33, 10, and 6, he had to play nearly 42 minutes a game, and his shooting percentages dropped to a pretty poor 44%. The sad part about all these numbers is, his team and his play doesn't get better as the series go on. They get easier to guard. Why is that exactly? Because Embiid doesn't punish adjustments quickly enough. Great playoff players force defenses to react immediately. Embiid allows defenses to settle. If this was any other superstar in the league, the answer would be obvious. They need to move on and build around someone else. The Philadelphia 76ers need to build around someone else. This is the bottom line core issue. To win with Embiid, you need elite spacing, secondary creators, perfect health, and controlled pace. That's an incredibly narrow margin. And every year, something goes wrong, which leads to the question the front office is quietly wrestling with. Is this actually sustainable? Because when your franchise player requires perfect conditions to succeed, you're not building a contender, you're gambling. Really, what confused everybody and the whole 76ers team was him winning his MVP. But winning MVP didn't fix the problem, it disguised it. Because individual dominance convinced people that team failure was still external. But MVPs don't guarantee championships. Adaptability does. And Embiid's game, while brilliant, hasn't proven rigid. The 76ers front office has refused to accept the harsh truth. Joel Embiid isn't a bad player. He's a great one. But greatness isn't always compatible with winning. And that's the hardest truth Philadelphia has avoided for years. Because letting go of Embiid doesn't feel like a basketball decision. It feels like betrayal. Currently, the 76ers are a playoff team as of right now, sitting in 6th place in the East. Yes, Embiid has been helping, but he has also missed just a bit under half of the games this season. You can't really thank Embiid for the season they are having. You should be thanking Tyrese Maxey. Since Maxey has taken control of the team, has really brought a new light to the team, and they are looking the best they have looked in a few seasons now. If it wasn't for the record-breaking season Jokic, SGA, and Luka are having, he'd be sitting somewhere near the top of the MVP ladder, as he's taken over Embiid's 76ers, and he showed that this team can be led by someone other than the process. So let's answer the question clearly. Yes, Embiid is a great player, but he is still the problem for this 76ers team. His playstyle slows their playoff offense, his conditioning limits late game dominance, his leadership doesn't stabilize chaos, his system forces others to shrink, his success doesn't scale under pressure. And after years of evidence, excuses no longer explain the outcome. Patterns do. Philadelphia didn't fail because they didn't try hard enough. They failed because they built around a star whose game doesn't translate when it matters most. And until that truth is accepted, the ending won't change.